Welcome to the Balls in Our Court podcast. This is Cortez Pauls here. I'm doing a solo podcast today, and I am finna cover the NBA playoffs. It does start this Saturday, and you're looking at a guy who can't be more excited for some playoff basketball to happen. So what I'm going to do is just kind of break down the series, what we got going on. We did have a lot of shuffling last night as far as the games that had to be completed, and the final seeds are here, and we actually have our matchups in stone. And I'm going to go ahead and actually start from there. First, here we're going to look at, I'm going to go with the East. The East, you got the Cleveland Cavaliers, who is your number one seed in the East, against the Detroit Pistons, who is your 8th seed, representing the Eastern Conference. As far as this series here, what I'm looking at is that Detroit leads the season series 3-1. Detroit does have some impressive wins on their resume. They did beat the Golden State Warriors and the Cavs earlier in the season. And they did make the jump from last year. They won 32 games last year, and they increased that to 44 wins this year. So they did add a young stud in Tobias Harris in the trade with Orlando. They got rid of Brandon Jennings and Ariane Ilyasova. So they did add to that core of Reggie Jackson and Andre Drummond. So quite successful for the Pistons to make the playoffs, who has been out of playoffs for a bit. Don't remember the exact number, but I believe I want to say it's probably about, I want to say 8 years is the last time they have made the playoffs. I had to do a double check on that, but I know it's been quite a bit. They've been rebuilding since the years that they had, Rip and Chauncey and Benoit and Rasheed Wallace and the team that that made the finals before and won the ring back in the early 2000s. So now then there's season series here. You got Kevin Love, who went for 24 points against this series. He shot 51% against them, shooting 50% from the three-point land. He made 9 of 18 in the season series. LeBron James tend not to lose in the first round series. So his record is actually 10-0 as far as series. And if you want to get technical with the games, he's 40 wins and 7 losses in the first round. So LeBron James seemed to, adjust to his style, and you already know that is the playoffs, and tend to turn it on and see how far he takes it. So the Pistons did improve as a shooting team because they did made that move as far as getting rid of some talent and everything like that was harming them. And Stan Van Gundy wanted to, this is a Stan Van Gundy team. They like to spread out the floor and have the big man operate in the middle and have some space. So they did shot a franchise record, 743s this season. And Andre Drummond was their leading rebounder at 14.8 this season. As far as the series prediction, I got the Cavs. This would be, I think, the Pistons to get one game. Stan Van Gundy is one heck of a coach, and not to take anything from Tyronn Lue, this is his first stab at it as a head coach in the playoffs. So, but Stan Van Gundy is one heck of a coach, and I can see him getting the win there. So, the Pistons are definitely rebuilding. This is a step in the right direction. They get to learn from one of the best teams in the East, the best team in the East, and one of the top teams in the NBA, of how things done in the playoffs and everything like that. So for the younger talent, as far as Reggie Jackson and Andre Drummond, Tobias Harris, and Stanley Johnson, and some of their talent that they have on that team, this is a step in the right direction. But they face an uphill battle against one of the top tier teams in the Cleveland Cavaliers. So my prediction is that Cleveland wins this series 4-1. In this series I'm going to talk about, you got the Toronto Raptors versus the Indiana Pacers. So the Raptors, 56 wins and the number 2 seed in the East, are franchise best. But they're still looking for their first series victory since 2001. On the other hand, you got the Indiana Pacers making their 21st playoff appearance since 1990. It is the best in the Eastern Conference since that time. Paul George is adjusting to playing the small ball role, which he's been playing the small ball for, and he is averaging his career best with 23.1 points per game. As you know, Paul George was out with that gruesome leg injury when he that occurred in the Team USA scrimmage. And I'm sure he's happy to get back on track and get his team back to the playoffs. And it's just good to see him playing ball again and doing it at a top level. So kudos to him for not only coming back to play from a gruesome injury like that, but also able to do it at a top level and even better than before. So he's still a young player in this league, and God willing, it goes for any of the players that they stay healthy and go on to continue their careers. So the Raptors did lead the season series 3-1, but they also won all 3 season games against the Wizards last year, and we know how that script ended, where the Raptors got eliminated. You do got Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan. That combo backcourt that you have is averaging 47.7 points per game and dishing out 10 assists per game. So probably one of the best starting backcourts in the NBA with those two. Those two have such a great chemistry together, and they are pivotal to the Raptors' success and pushing them to the 56 wins and the second seed in the East. DeMar Carroll is also returning after being out 3 months with a right knee injury. And so they're trying to get him back into the groove of things, which they're going to need him to guard Paul George. But you got to wonder how effective he's going to be after recovering from an injury like that. So you got to need him to put some bodies against Paul George, throw anything at him to try to figure out what he's going to do. So that's one thing that he does help with, and he does provide some additional scoring to this talented Toronto Raptors team. Jonas Valanciunas in this season series is averaging 15.5 points per game and 9.5 rebounds in the season series, which is one of his better performances against any team that he's been playing against. So he's been solid, which he's going to have to be because they got a nice little front line with Miles Turner and Ian Mahimi. So those two can present some problems to you. So that way you can kind of rely on him while the guards of Lowry and DeRozan try to do their damage against their pesky backcourt that they have with the Indiana Pacers there. So Pacers do rank 3rd in defensive efficiency, so they're hoping to use that to push their offense up there to get some offensive points and everything like this. My prediction for this series, the Raptors is, and I know the Raptors have been good for not, as I would say, blowing it and not taking advantage of the opportunity. I thought for sure that, I did pick Washington to beat them last year, but I thought the year before when they played Brooklyn, they had a really good shot at beating them. But I think this is the year that they get over the hump and they get to the second round, and I think they handle the Pacers. The Pacers will put up a fight, and I got the Pacers because I got the Pacers winning. I got the Pacers winning probably about 2 games in here, to be honest. But the Raptors are still trying to learn how to win. But they're doing a good job. They did a great job this season holding on to that number 2 seed East. They look like them and Cavs really separate themselves from the Eastern Conference. So it's going to be interesting to see how they hold up here. But I believe that they will advance. And I feel like, to me personally, they have a shot to make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. So. All right, you got the Heat and the Hornets. It's the next series in the East. Since losing Chris Bosh, the Miami Heat, around the All-Star break, they went 19-10. They also picked up Joe Johnson off the waivers from the Brooklyn Nets, and so they seem to be rolling here pretty well. You imagine that you lose an important piece of Chris Bosh that you would think you would struggle a little bit, but props to them for still picking it up and going a bigger record and then still getting the number 3 seed in the East. So they did pretty well and been managing through the injuries that they have on this team here. So also, as far as the Charlotte Hornets, they did switch their focus to using the deep ball. They did have Lance Stevenson on their team, and then as soon as they win him, they went another route. They are averaging 103.2 points per game, which is 10th in the NBA. Also, they're 9th in defensive rating, and in front of them is the Miami Heat. So you can tell that this is going to be some solid defensive play in this series here. The teams do split the season series. Wade, who was averaging 16 points per game in this series, only got to the line 3.5 times against the Hornets. And it's obvious how good Wade is good in creating contact to get to the line. The playoffs slowing down. Wade ability, he has to, try to slow the game down a little bit and get some freebies off the line. So we know how great Dwayne Wade can get to the line and do that and get his team in the bonus. And that way he can create pressure on their backcourt and trying to slow the game down a little bit for some of his teammates. So Miami win on February 5th against the Hornets. Hassan Whiteside posted a triple-double. He got 10 points, 10 rebounds, and 10 blocks. Kemba Walker, who's an outstanding talent and should be up in the running for Kia's most improved player of the year. In this series, he averaged 19.5 points and 5.3 assists per game, and a shade under one turnover in this series. So a matchup to be watched is Al Jefferson, who is now coming off the bench for the Charlotte Hornets. But his versatility on the offensive side of the ball will be interesting to see how it does against Whiteside, who is forced to be regular on the defensive side of the ball, and Mark Stoudemire, who is coming to his own in a role where he was starting, but now I know at the end of the season they had Whiteside starting. So I'm pretty sure I think Stoudemire is going back to starting, so and they're going to bring Whiteside off the bench. He seems to have a cohesive fit with the bench unit and bring that little effectiveness there. Whiteside still get his minutes and everything like that, and Stoudemire just starts off the game, but it seemed like Spo seemed to go that route as of lately, and it's been successful. So not unless they go with that. So as far as this series, I think this is probably going to be the only series that have a possible chance of going 7. I'm looking at it here, and you just look at it how Wade has been playing. I mean, one thing that Wade was going to slow down a little bit, and as he's get older, but Wade has been playing pretty darn good basketball. With his compadre and Chris Bosh going down, there's been no word Chris Bosh is going to play in this playoff series. But I still think they have enough talent to hold off the feisty Hornets, and I believe I got the Heat in 7. So the Heat will win this series in 7. You got the Celtics, the Atlanta Hawks, and the Boston Celtics. This season series, you got the Atlanta Hawks leading a 3-1. Isaiah Thomas, who is in his first All-Star campaign, he was in his first All-Star game in Toronto this year, is averaging 22 points per game and 6 assists per game, which is pretty solid for the little guy who's having one heck of a year since coming from that trade from Phoenix. Last few years, he's been a solid piece for the Celtics, and he's really picking it up, and they're making some noise here. So they're actually representing the East as the 5th seed, and in the Hawks are representing the East as the 4th seed. So the last 10 games, you got Jeff T, who was averaging 20 points per game, 6.5 assists per game. He's been solid the last few games closing in here. He's been inconsistent the whole season, but his last 10 games tend to turn it on. So this is going to be a fun matchup to watch between those two, and Isaiah Thomas and Jeff T. So you got to worry about Marcus Smart because a lot of people was high on this kid, and I know Danny Ainge is still high on this kid, but during the season he's been struggling as far as shooting the ball. He's been shooting 25% from the three-point line, and his field goal percentage is 35% overall. So you imagine that this series here will tell you a lot about Marcus Smart as a player going forward as far as the Celtics or how they look at him and evaluate him in the near future. So it'd be interesting to see what he does. He's a great defensive sound time on the ball. He does tend to lock up one of your best players on offense. He does have that ability, but you're hoping that he can put it together and show you some